Hello, hello, and welcome to part two of the Surviving to Thriving series. Really happy to be bringing you this information through through a couple of different channels. And so, just to give a quick recap, we're doing the Surviving to Thriving, how to live beyond the veil and get from struggling and pain and suffering into a life of wellness. And there's three different parts, right? First, we have to own what is and was, then we transmute it, and then we learn to trust and trust the process. And this is part two. If you want to watch the other video, start with the other video, please. We first get into orienting ourselves. This is a very important thing of setting the foundation. And now we're going to get into how to transmute what we know and turn it into fuel, right? So turning what I like to say, turning shit into compost. And sorry, it's a little brash, but it's the truth, right? How to take the past and thinking it's a waste or what is it all for, and turning it into the golden lessons and the valuable teachings to propel us into our future. And that will make us well. That will make us feel good and at peace in our lives. So getting into it, we're going to talk about what are the myths that we need to kind of wrap our head around and understand why the socially acceptable myths are totally baloney. And let's just keep it real on how to transmute, how to start really shifting our lives into making it better for ourselves and letting our divinity, right? Our higher self, our spiritual self, learning to trust that gut feeling, right? Learning to trust our intuition instead of what we've been doing our whole lives, which is trusting the common thought of how to do things and how to be, right? So thinking about our health and wellness, this is a very common approach, which is when I get into shape, I'll start feeling better or I'll start looking better. And that's not true. I mean, it could last for a little while. It could be the truth for a bit. Sure, you're really motivated to get into shape and you go to the gym for months and months, then you look great, and then something happens and you stop going to the gym and you start eating more, or some sort of crisis happens in your life, and you go right back to square one. I mean, I see this all the time. People get on and off the wagon of their food addiction, and they go from one extreme to the next. But if you want to look good, you have to feel good first. This is sustainable wellness, right? Because it's not about just how you look. If you might think that if you have this great body, then you'll be happy. That's not how it works. You have to be happy and be okay with your body. And that confidence makes you feel good. And then when you feel good nutritionally, because you feel good in your heart and in your mind, because you're properly nourished and you're eating well, then you have energy to do the things that you want to do. It could be going to the gym. It could be any other kind of exercise and movement, right? So you don't want to start going to physical fitness is not step one, not in my opinion, right? Fuel is your foundation. What are literally fuel is your foundation, right? If there's no gas in the car's not going anywhere, right? It's not about the car having a great body. That how the car looks is not what makes it run, right? What makes it run is fuel. So healthy food, just really, this is really important. Okay. The health food out there, most of it is crap. most of it's disguised as health food. It's junk food. The last time I was like hankering for something sweet, I went to the cookie aisle in the organic food section at the grocery store, and there was propylene glycol in the ingredients. Okay, propylene glycol is a main ingredient in lighter fluid. It is lighter fluid. It's also a main ingredient in vape, uh, those cartridges. Okay, you shouldn't be ingesting it into your lungs. You shouldn't be ingesting it into your body. And yeah, you could use it for light. That's okay. Anyway, health food isn't necessarily healthy. I'm going to be offering a series about nutrition, and it's my slant on nutrition that's called regenerative nutrition. And this is all about what real nutrition is. Okay. And it's a little different than what you're used to. It's based off of a whole foods diet. Whole foods, meaning foods that are unprocessed, right? So we'll start there. Um, anyway, getting back to this, some more myths. This is that myth of getting into shape and then you feel better, but movement itself is a act of presence, right? Enjoying the movement, like, oh, I need to get an exercise in, and you're just like totally, just rushing through it. You just want to get it over with. And you never stretch, because stretching, who has time for stretching? Stretching is important. Stretching is a really important part of working out. And strength needs suppleness. Strength needs flexibility. Anyway, really important stuff. The mess is the message. So perfectionism seems to be like a standard in our culture, right? Like everybody has to look flawless and perfect. The airbrushed makeup, that is the trend, wearing layers and layers of makeup so you literally look like you're walking around with a filter on your face. I mean, perfectionism is killing us, and it fuels criticism because nobody's ever good enough. So perfectionism is not something to aspire to. Okay. Being messy is being human, and healing chronic pain and illness is not a linear experience. Opening yourself up to the process is going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, maybe a little pause. We're learning as we grow, right? We're learning as we go, we're learning as we grow. So there's this cycle of perfectionism that creates stagnation, that creates feeling bad about ourselves. And it's like getting off of this crazy hamster wheel of perfectionism, procrastination, and paralysis. Perfectionism, procrastination, paralysis, where we never do anything because nothing's ever good enough, right? So let's put that aside and let's move on to the third myth, in order to transmute and make this shift or slide into this reality of how do I get well, right? And this is a really big one. And this is going to make people very uncomfortable. It's crafting the art of discernment. So learning to be discerning means to dare to think for yourself, right? To use your opinion and your experience and not what others want. And some people will say, and this is the myth, others only want what's best for me, right? They only want what's best for me. It's in, what's in my best interest is in their best interest. And they just want me to do what's comfortable. Well, that's the reality of it. They want you to do what's comfortable for them. They don't want you to do what's best for you. So who's really benefiting from their opinions on how you should handle things, right? The surgeon's going to want you to have surgery. The psychiatrist is going to want you to have meds. Like the therapist is going to want you to continually keep going back. And I'm not saying not to do these things. I want you to continue doing those things if they're benefiting you. I'm just saying, your family, your friends, your boyfriend, girlfriend, if you don't prioritize you, they're not going to prioritize you. You are the only one who could prioritize you. And you are the only one who can say, I actually want to do this. And people will, I don't understand. Why do you want to do this? I think you should do this. I think that's not good for you. Well, I want to do it. That's reason enough to do something, especially if it's in your best interest and it's not harmful, right? So when we constantly put our preferences and needs aside, we just get more and more resentful. And this is what makes us sick, right? We have to stop self-sacrificing so that other people come first. Others don't want what's best for you. They want what's best for them. Okay. So constantly self-sacrificing leads to illness, chronic pain, and burnout. Chronically putting everybody else's needs before your own. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, and I just want it to land, and I know it hurts, but know that it doesn't have to continue. So the truth is that relationships will end. They will shift, they will change, and their new relationships will begin when we decide to prioritize ourselves and to transmute and acknowledge what was. We're not pretending anymore. We're going to be honest. And it's a really good thing when relationships change, end, and new relationships begin, right? Because what you need and what you desire matters. And if you desire to live a life of wellness where everybody else around you is unhealthy, well, it's going to be a little uncomfortable for them, isn't it? Right? But they're going to get used to it, or they're going to adapt in some way, shape, or form. So this may be uncomfortable, but what you want has value, right? If you want to live the way you want to live, remember the growing pains, right? Remember the snake sheds its skin. It's uncomfortable, but it's worth it, and it's the only way to grow. So the last piece about transmuting it is to evaluate and acknowledge what are your priorities, right? Prioritizing yourself. And the myth is that I can't afford to focus on my health, right? I can't afford to have a coach. I can't afford to have a gym membership. I can't afford to eat the food because that food is too expensive. So I'm going to ask you, well, what are you spending your money on? What do you value? Because what you are paying for says everything about what are your priorities. And what are you investing in? Right? If you look at money, right? I don't have the money and I don't have the time. Your attention is valuable. That's why they call, I don't know if you've heard of this, it's an attention economy, right? YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, they're making money on your time. They're making money on what you're focusing on. So what are you investing your time and focus and money on? What is important to you, right? And in the financial sense, what are your returns? What are you getting back from the things that you're investing in, right? The things that you're focusing on, your attention. So one of my favorite quotes, one of my favorite people of all time, one of my favorite thinkers of all time is Albert Einstein, which is very cliche. I'm one of many, right? And he is known for saying insanity is doing the same thing over again and again and expecting different results. So I challenge you to do something different than you've ever done and get the results that you really want. If you're interested in learning more and working with me, I would love to talk about how we can do things differently We'll get to that in a minute. So now let's get into, the trusting process, right? So if you want to do something different, you will get a different result. And to bravely do something and bust out of that rigid thinking and go into uncertainty, step into the unknown, and witness your patterns using that workbook with self-compassion instead of judgment. No more criticism. And we acknowledge the criticism, right? We could learn to witness all of these parts, especially the critical parts. And we can separate ourselves from the criticism that says, I'm not doing it right. I'm not good enough for this. I don't deserve this. Or even if that's not in your conscious awareness, just acknowledging the negative talk, right? That says, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I don't think it's possible. This will never work, right? I invite you to slow down and pace yourself and embody this process that we're on. And I'm so, so excited that I'm sharing this with you as an invitation, and to see how does this series, just this series alone, affect your awareness, right? And if this series alone is effective, then maybe you'll want to work with me, and maybe you want to do more courses, because I'm only doing these courses so it's an easier way for me to say these things instead of repeating myself over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, everybody's different working with people one-on-one, but this information that I'm sharing in all of my courses is foundational to the way that I work with people, which is completely unique, because everybody's completely unique in their circumstances and their complex dynamics, right? And their multidimensionality, their mind, their emotions, their physical situations, their pain, their illness. So I invite you to do something revolutionary, is to slow down and honor just the state of being in this moment, and embody your beingness, and that is enough. And I'll share this quote with you. Grace is the secret of grace is not in moving or in stillness. It is knowing that each moment is entirely itself and not a step along the way to someplace else. So this whole experience is an exercise in awareness and presence. And well-being is an experience of being more embodied in the forever now moment, and learning to be at peace with the now moment, and cultivating that peace more and more, infusing that peace more and more into your life, and seeing how it makes you well. Of course, utilizing the foundation of eating well, because if that peace isn't there, it's very, very hard to do anything else, because if your fuel isn't right, your brain isn't right. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. We're going to talk about trust, and everybody's got trust stuff, especially people who've been through a lot of family dysfunction. And if you're living with chronic pain, there's no doubt in my mind that there's trust stuff going on, because it's such an infuriating, frustrating, confusing experience to suffer from chronic pain and mysterious illnesses that may sometimes take years to figure out what's wrong with us, right? So I hope that you found this interesting and thought-provoking and helpful and supportive in your journey, and I'll see you on the next video.